The shortcut button to open the Stages control and configuration window, this one here, will be enabled if a computer-controlled sample chamber is connected to the system and has been successfully detected and initialized by libsoft. Selecting the shortcut button will display the configuration window on top of the main libsoft screen. During an acquisition, the stages are moved automatically by libsoft as specified by the acquisition configuration. However, the stages configuration screen allows each of the stages to be controlled manually. There is a set of controls for each axis. The x-axis controls move the sample left and right. The y-axis controls move the sample forward and backward. And the z-axis controls move the sample up and down. The z-axis is therefore used primarily to set the focus position of the laser output on the sample surface. Controls are available to jog the stage forwards or backwards by a fixed distance, move the stage continuously forwards or backwards, either slowly or more quickly, and to zero the displayed stage position. It is important to note that the controls for the X and Y axes are laid out in such a way as to indicate the direction in which the analysis position on the sample will move when viewed from above. It is easiest to imagine the top left-hand corner of the sample when viewed from above as the origin of movement, so the zero position. Moving the X stage in the positive direction will move the sample to the left and therefore the analysis position to the right. Similarly, moving the y-axis stage in the positive direction will move the sample towards the back of the sample chamber and therefore the analysis position towards the bottom of the sample when viewed from above. Automated sample movements during an acquisition will be always initially in this positive direction on both the X and Y axes. However, if a two-dimensional scan of the sample is specified, the direction of movement on the X-axis will be reversed at the end of each line of the scan. In addition to the movement controls, there is a green indicator for each axis that is illuminated when that axis is moving. So for the X-axis, Y-axis and Z-axis, and if we move the X-axis, we can see the indicator illuminates. There are also two red indicators for each axis, the X-axis, the Y-axis and the Z-axis. These correspond to the limit switches that are at either end of the range of travel for each axis. If a limit switch is activated, the stage movement is automatically stopped and the corresponding indicator is illuminated. So if we move the X-axis back to the negative limit switch, we can see that indicator is now illuminated. Move it away from the limit switch. If a limit switch is activated during an acquisition, the acquisition will be stopped. It is therefore important to ensure that the specified scan area for the acquisition is within the available range of movement for the stages before starting an acquisition. There is also a display of the stage position for each axis, X-axis, Y-axis, Z-axis. It should be noted that this is not an absolute position unless the stage has been homed, and it can be zeroed at any time by pressing the 0 button. In the top left-hand corner of the screen are two further buttons. The stop button, this one here, will halt the movement of all stages. The second button displays the stages configuration screen that allows configuration of the movement parameters for the stages. So if we select that one, in the top section of this screen are the speed settings for the stages. These include the slow speed and the fast speed. These are the speeds at which the stages move when the slow and fast continuous movement buttons are selected for the stages. There's also a jog speed, which is the speed at which the stages move when the jog buttons are pressed, and a scan speed, which is the speed at which the stages move during an acquisition scan. In the lower section of this screen, there are controls that allow the distance each stage moves when jogged to be specified. These are denoted as the step intervals for each stage and currently set to 0.5 millimeters. This distance is also the distance a stage moves between each measurement location during an acquisition scan. Also in the lower section of this screen are buttons labelled Set Ref for each axis. That, when pressed, will set the current stage position as a reference position. Subsequently pressing the Go Ref button for the corresponding stage will make the stage return to this set reference position. Finally, in this lower section of the screen, there is a Home button for each stage. Pressing one of these buttons will cause the corresponding stage to move in the negative direction until it reaches the limit switch, move away from the limit switch by 1 millimeter in the positive direction, and then stop and zero the stage position indicator. So if we zero the x-axis, moves to the limit switch and then back, and we can do the same for the y-axis. In the top left-hand corner of the window, there is a duplicate of the stop button, which when pressed will halt movement on all stages. There is also a button to reinitialize the communications with the stages if required. This is generally only necessary if there is an unexpected communications failure between the computer and the spectrometer module. Finally, there is a button to return to the stage's control window, which is this one here. The parameter values currently displayed in the stage's configuration window will be saved to the libsoft configuration file when the application is shut down, and automatically reloaded the next time the application is started.